Hey everybody, Quantum here, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at some Blurple gameplay. I am really a big fan of this deck for this format. I do think that it does have the right tools to combat the Emerald decks, but in this version, for some reason, I wasn't running Peter Pan Shadow. Shadow Finder, that is. But again, if you looked at the deck list video and checked out the deck list, probably linked in the description, you would know that we did put those back in. So my friend here is testing out a mid-range version of Amber Amethyst, a deck that I think definitely has some good play into the meta as well. But for this match, we are going first. We end up inking a goat and passing. Our only one drop is Popsicle, so if we don't see it, we are done for turn one with just an ink. But the main thing is that we have our ramp on turn two. Now, depending on the matchup, Sail, I would say, is usually way better, obviously, because you get to redraw and you get to put the ink in unexerted, which can matter. But in this deck, maybe not so much because you only play, like I said, one drop Popsicle, which you're probably playing on turn one. So unless you rip into the Popsicle, the unexerted ink for Sail on 2 doesn't really matter too much. Hopefully that makes sense. But the Tipo being negative card advantage, doesn't hurt you as much in the long game, right? Because you draw a lot of cards with Blurple. But unless you need the body on board, the Sail, I would say, is much better. So speaking of Sail, we do rip into one and we get the coveted start with the turn 3 Genie, and we can start putting the pressure on the opponent early. What's funny is you can tell by my opponent here, they're also on a version of ramp. They have lanterns. Lantern, I think, is really good and kind of overlooked, and they also get a turn 3 Genie. So we're in kind of like, this is like a Blurple mirror match, right? It's like, okay, who's going to drop the Elsa and or Belle first, right? I don't have my Elsa, so what I'm going to do here is take a turn off, air quotes, and just play Finders Keepers. I quest with both, and the reason for that is because, hey, the opponent's going to be on 5 ink effectively, and if they have Elsa, they're going to tap down my Genie anyways. I wouldn't think, or I wouldn't put the Amber Amethyst deck on playing Bells. So here my opponent inks the Elsa, and I was like, dude, are you kidding me? Like, you're actually playing Belle? And then he's able to execute the plan. So you could see if I didn't quest with the Genie, he would have just inked the Belle and played the Elsa and had an Elsa and a Genie on board. He was going to take out my Genie regardless. So now I'm in the situation of, okay, he's been able to heal up his Genie by moving the damage. And I just have a Tipo on board. So you can see how this match swung very quickly in my opponent's favor, and the power of this Amber Amethyst deck. Really good plays by my friend here. Just, yeah, taking the advantage where he can. The ink advantage that we have here actually worked against us, right? Because we were the first one to develop the Genie, which means my opponent was the first one to react to the Genie. And this is good. We need more cards like this in Lorcana, right? Cards that, like the Belle, like the Elsa, this kind of interaction where the going second player can claw back advantage this way. So here we just play double Popsicle and play out another Genie, quest with the Tipo. We're ahead in the lore count. My opponent has the better board for sure, but then we pass turn here. The Daisy hasn't been doing anything for them, right? They don't want to give me the card advantage because we are mostly characters. But I'm feeling a little more confident probably than my friend, simply because I have removal and like in form of the Hades, and my opponent here doesn't, right? They're going to use the Genie to take out the Tipo, right? Because they have to deal with the Tipo, right? They can't just let it keep questing for one. They're gonna pay 2 for another Lantern, right? This is the problem with their ramp, is that they have to play it, whereas mine, I can ink mine. But those Lanterns are dead in the hand unless you put them on the board. And I mean, it's a resource that pays off in the long term. They ink a Monstro, and they quest out with the Belle, and they have a Rapunzel on board as well. To heal up that Genie. So you can see they got some good value of taking up the Tipo. Deal with the character that they're going to have to deal with at some point, as well as Rapunzel heal for 1. Better than, not developing anything. So again, depending on what their hand is, if they had a Surfer Stitch there, I think that would have been the play to draw 2, put a big body on board. But yeah, it looks pretty dire for me here, right? So we're going to start off by inking a Friends, which is crazy, and then go for 2 to play a Sail. What am I doing here? Like, why would I opt to play Sail here? Because I'm probably not double ramping, right? But yeah, we're going to do Genie Crash and then move the damage. So that was the play. We're going to save the Hades. Since we are ahead in the lore count, we can afford to play a little bit of a slower game. And this is something that not a lot of people may agree with or even recognize that this is something that you could do. But yeah, I'm opting to say, again, I can develop slowly and wait until you drop your bigger threats for my Hades to come in on. Like, I'm not really too worried about this Bell. I can trade out with it. The Rapunzel, I can combo off with the Fox, that kind of thing. And where I really want to utilize my Hades is like against that Surfer Stitch, which is very difficult to out otherwise, right? So here I have some decisions to make. Um, and again, the opponent didn't opt to quest with their Daisy. Their Rapunzel is still up and ready. They didn't opt to quest with that. They've only opted to quest with the Bell. So again, I don't need to aggressively go for lore here. I can again focus on developing some board presence instead of some lore. So we're gonna go ahead and play out that Bell for free. Really good value. Crazy to think that I'm inking this Tamatoa here, but everything else just provides way more value. We're gonna pay 5 for Elsa to take out that Chernobog, and we're leaving the Surfer Stitch up still, right? Which is crazy, but again, we're not in a position where we need to take it out. We quest with the Bell, and then we're gonna be able to pay 3 to bounce back our Bell and take out the opponent's Bell, losing our Fox in the process. And what this does is it sets up for us moving damage with the Bell on the evasive Elsa. Again, my opponent doesn't have Ruby removal or Sapphire removal, so this Elsa is very likely to live with its damage, and my opponent now knows that I can move this damage next turn. I might have another Fox where I can, after I move the damage, replay the Elsa to re-tap down something because I'll be on enough ink. Well, I guess I can't do that, right? Because if I play the Bell, I can't bounce back the Elsa with a Fox and then replay the Elsa again. That would take like 13 ink. But yeah, they do Fox, bouncing back the Stitch after they quest with it. So that was, that's really good value play for them. They're going to play down an Elsa and tap down my Bell, and that's a good trade for me. The Bell that was played for free off of the Popsicle in terms of tempo trades out with my opponent's Fox. I know they have a Surfer Stitch in hand, which they can no longer play this turn. But again, their Elsa here can't take out my Elsa, and they know they don't want to use that Elsa to rush into my Elsa or Genie because they know I have the Bell. So you can kind of see the play, how it kind of played out there. Stopping my opponent from aggressively, dealing damage to my board here. We do have the Popsicle, which we could opt to heal the Elsa with if we wanted to. But here I'm going to Hades away my opponent's Elsa and just start questing. So I've cleaned up their board a little bit. Again, this Daisy hasn't really done anything, and I have more Hades for the Surfer Stitch. My opponent knows that I know that they have the Surfer Stitch, so I expect them to deploy it here. But again, I'm not worried about your card draw because I'm just going to continue to develop a board with these multiple Hades, and this is where Blurple can really start popping off. Is once I start dropping one Hades after another, it's like these demand answers. They don't only remove a threat from the board, but they are going to put a lot of questing pressure on you as well. The opponent here inks Mufasa, still has 3 ink to work with, 4 cards in hand, so you can see the value that they're getting, right? This deck able to put down a lot of threats, recycle good threats here, and keep up with card draw, which is really strong. Fox comes in, bounces Rapunzel, and they pass turn. So now once again, I'm going to deploy another Hades and deal with that Surfer Stitch. Okay, I know they have a Rapunzel in hand, and I quest with Genie and Elsa being the evasive threats. I don't quest with the Hades because if I did, the opponent would be able to use the Daisy Duck to crash into the Hades, take 3 damage on Daisy, and then drop that Rapunzel I know that they have to heal that Daisy. So all that talk that I said about, Hades being able to start questing, I'm at a standstill because I don't want them to draw 3 cards off the Daisy, which they have enough ink that if they played the Rapunzel to heal the Daisy, they could follow up with another big threat like a Monstro or something to wipe the board anyways, or wipe the Hades at least because Monstro does not have evasive. But it's fine because again, they don't have a way to interact with my readied characters, I'm pretty sure. So I can just keep these Hades readied up and say, well, I'll just quest for game next turn anyways. And this is the slight issue that this deck would have. You can see it's very powerful because my opponent was able to keep up. But just because they were on the draw in this match, they were slightly behind. They do have the Darling Deer to potentially close the game out with +2 lore, but again, they just were a little too far behind in the beginning. Not questing with the Daisy there. I don't know if it was correct or not in the end, but it probably was because I would have dealt with it if it was exerted. So I was more than happy to take card advantage. But that was one of the games. Make sure you stay tuned for the rest. Let me know what you think in the comment section below if you made it this far. Quantum is out for this one.